Hey folks, Jeremy McGowan here, and today is kind of a special day because today is the official announcement of the very first investigation by myself using the OSIRIS, and I am going to be asking for your assistance. Um, I'm going to be investigating the alleged crash of 1953 in or outside of Kingman, Arizona, and I am looking to source any kind of verifiable information. That might include direct witnesses who will swear an oath, actual physical artifacts. I know, I can dream though. Photographs, any other documentation of this alleged event as long as it can be verifiable. Um, but let's take a quick look at this case and see what we can turn up prior to the investigation, because I kind of want to point you all in a very specific direction to see if I can crowdsource information that is going to be relevant to this actual investigation. So let's take a look at the events of 1953 that allegedly forced the downing of a UFO outside of Kingman, Arizona. Operation Upshot-Knothole. The ninth series of atmospheric nuclear tests was conducted by the Atomic Energy Commission at the Nevada Proving Ground from March 19th to June 20th of 1953. The series consisted of 11 nuclear tests. One detonation was actually an atomic artillery projectile fired from a 280 millimeter ground-based cannon. 3 were airdrops, and 7 were detonated on towers ranging from 100 to 300 feet in height. The operation involved an estimated 20,000 Department of Defense personnel participating in observer programs, tactical maneuvers, scientific studies, and support activities. Upshot-Knothole was intended to test nuclear devices for possible inclusion in the U.S. arsenal, to improve military tactics, equipment, and training, and to study civil defense needs. Now, according to witnesses that were around the area at the time and some researchers, that during the approximate same time frame near Kingman, witnesses began to report what they described as a fleet of 8 flying saucer type aircraft. And they described these aircraft as flying in a way that resembled a dogfight. Now, this photo from 8 News Now, from a story back in February of 2020, is an artist's rendition of witness accounts of the events in 1953, the dogfight between the UAP UFOs. Now, also, a newspaper story ran an article about a retired Nevada test site technician whose name was Arthur Stansel, who claimed that back in May of 1953, he and a few other team members were tasked with recovering a secret experiment that had crashed, or a secret experimental aircraft that had crashed. So we've established that an event did take place. We know that there were atomic testings going on at the test site during this same general time frame. But the problem is that the dates of the explosion for this crash seem to be inconsistent with witness testimonies, and potentially inconsistent with the dates and times of the actual atomic explosions from the Nevada test site. So let's take a quick look at what those dates for the actual tests truly were. Okay, so what you're looking at now is a summary of the operations from Operation Upshot-Knothole, the nuclear weapons tests back in 1953. Now, while there were a total of 11 explosions, we are only going to be examining the last 4 because these are the ones that are the closest to the alleged dates, or the witness testimony of the dates of this alleged crash. So let's take a look at the last 4 shots: Encore, Harry, Grable, and Climax. Now, Shot Encore was originally scheduled for May 7th. It did not happen until May 8th at 8:30 a.m. Nevada time, which would have been 9:30 a.m. Arizona time on May 8th. And this was an airdrop with a burst height of 2,423 feet and a 27 kiloton yield. Now, Shot Harry was scheduled for May 2nd. However, due to weather and a variety of other factors, it did not occur until May 19th at 5:05 hours, 5 o'clock in the morning Vegas time, or 6 o'clock in the morning Arizona time on May 19th. Now, this explosion was a tower-based explosion, 300 feet off the ground, yielding a 32 kiloton explosion. Shot Grable was originally scheduled on May 21st. It, however, did not occur until May 25th at 8:30 a.m., which would have been 9:30 a.m. Arizona time. This one was the artillery round that was fired out of a ground-based 280 millimeter cannon. This had a burst height of 524 feet above the surface and was a 15 kiloton explosion fired out of a cannon. Now, the last one is Shot Climax. This was originally scheduled on May 31st, but did not occur until June 4th at 4:15 a.m. Vegas time, or 5:15 a.m. Arizona time. This was another airdrop explosion with a burst height of 1,334 feet above ground level and yielded a very large 61 kiloton explosion. So the first corroboration of any correlative data point that I have here is from Judith Ann Wolcott, where she authored or wrote the Lost Kingman UFO letters. And in there, she describes the events of May 19th, 1953, with a very good description of the crash that allegedly occurred. And I will read her testimony verbatim here. She states that on May 19th, 1953, at 5:05 a.m. local time at Yucca Flat, Nevada, around 175 miles north of Kingman, one of a series of nuclear tests under the umbrella code name Upshot-Knothole was set off. Sunrise that day was around 6:21. So at the time of the blast, the whole of the night sky was dark, except for a slight pre-dawn glow along the eastern horizon. Within seconds of the blast, some sort of a dark airborne object, moving at an ultra-high rate of speed, was swept past the east, traveling in a southerly direction almost as though it came from the test site, tracking on a slightly downward trajectory and headed towards the mountains to the south. As the object lost altitude suddenly, a huge flash of light lit up the sky in the nearby mountains forward of the southern horizon. All along the object appeared to be unsteady, fairly thin, and possibly flat circular. Although the sun was below the horizon, the object was still high enough that it was able to catch the direct rays of the sun, wobbling enough that it was able to throw off a brilliant glint of sunlight from some portion of its underside as it tipped upward, only to disappear as it tipped back. The flash of light near the base of the mountains was soon followed by a sound like a single clap of thunder. All right, so the first thing you're going to notice is I'm not wearing glasses because I have my contacts in. I shaved and I changed my shirt. That's basically because today is tomorrow from yesterday's perspective. This video has taken a little bit longer than I had anticipated, and I felt like sleeping and changing clothes. So anyway, I'm not worried about continuity in a YouTube video. But let's take a look at this testimony, because there's a few things that just don't make sense here, and I want to try to figure this out. This lady says that, and she's speaking from the perspective of a witness to the alleged crash, back in 1953. So she was in, on, or around the proximity of the crash site in Kingman. That location is approximately 170 miles, 170 miles from the epicenter of where the nuclear detonation occurred in Nevada. At straight line distance, 170 miles. And she says within seconds of the explosion that she could see the dark object streaking across the sky and wobbling and heading towards the mountain. That means that, let's give her the benefit of the doubt. Let's say it was 30 seconds. 30 seconds from the time of the nuclear explosion to where she saw it. That's 170 miles in 30 seconds. That's 20,400 miles per hour. 20,400 miles per hour. And if it only took 15 seconds, because she says seconds, we don't know. If it only took 15 seconds, that's 40,800 miles per hour. Almost 41,000 miles per hour. Now that is faster than any aircraft that we have by a huge factor. And I'll tell you from firsthand experience, I've been close by jets when they go supersonic. I've never seen anything hypersonic. And chances are I'm not going to see it because it is going too fast to see. So her witness testimony is so detailed and so full of minutia that I find it very, very difficult to get that level of detail out of an object that's traveling somewhere between 20 and 40,000 miles per hour. And that is exponentially into the levels of hypersonic speeds. So if you want to see what hypersonic speeds look like from a ground perspective, let's take a look at this quick video. All right, so what you're about ready to see now is a rocket sled at hypersonic speeds. Now, this is just normal human achievable hypersonic speeds. This is not anywhere close to being 40,000 miles per hour. So let's take a look at this. Here's the rocket sled. You see the little flash of light down there at the end? It's coming. Boom! Now, describe it. Tell me what you saw. Not going to happen. Here comes again at half speed. Think you got a chance? Do you have any idea what that looked like at half speed? Let's try a quarter speed. Nah. Now that's, again, not even at supersonic speeds. Or, I mean, not even at the speeds that this object would have been traveling to make it between the detonation site and the crash site in that amount of time. There's no way that she was able to get that much information. It's just not happening. So I'm not completely discounting the idea that a nuclear explosion during the testing in 1953 from the Nevada test site had the ability to knock down or knock out of the sky a UFO. I am calling into question the testimony of the one witness that we have that seems too good to be true. And that leads me to wonder about the ideas of having that nuclear explosion actually bring down a craft. Seeing as how the test at 5:05 a.m. on the 19th is the only one that even comes close to being within the time frame of the crash, it makes sense that it's involved, but at the same time, Harry Drew, a historian and a researcher of the Kingman crash, believes that it was not on the 19th, and it was actually on the 21st, and it had nothing to do with the nuclear explosions. Mr. Drew believes that some very powerful radar emitters in the area, which were turned on, maybe as part of the test, were responsible for bringing down that craft. Um, if you know anything about the Roswell incident back in 1947, it is also assumed that the very powerful radar systems and broadcasting equipment that were in use there at the time were also responsible for the downing of that craft. So this may not be anything to do with a nuclear test, other than the fact that there does seem to be a definitive connection between UAP and nukes, whether it be active testing or missile silos or nuclear powered aircraft carriers, or even in my case, a potential nuclear device in a little wooden box in the middle of the desert. So this pretty much brings me to the end of my understanding of the Kingman crash. And now I'm asking you to help me find more information, because come middle of April, the OSIRIS and I are going to go out, because we have been given information that tells us that there is potential activity near the alleged crash site. Now, I do not know if this has anything to do with the crash, or if this is a completely separate incident that just happens to be in that area. But apparently there is routine activity in the area of Kingman, Arizona, and the OSIRIS and I are going to go out and attempt to capture that data. So if you have any information, if you know any property owners, if you have any anecdotal evidence or any hard evidence that you're willing to push my way about the 1953 incident, or about current continuing incidents at or near Kingman, Arizona, please let me know. Thank you.